The 70s were a decade that not only broke new ground for scares, but also introduced a swarm of filmmakers who are considered legends today. With today's video, we will be taking a look at 15 of the most mind-wrenching creature features from that period, and therefore, we suggest that you stay tuned till the end of this video to see if your favorite film has made it to our list or not. Are you ready? Let's begin! But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Jaws, 1975. Visionary filmmaker Steven Spielberg's Jaws, which is based on Peter Benchley's 1974 novel, is one of the most well-rounded, complete movies to have ever been made, featuring a storyline that's probably the simplest one we'll ever come across. The plotline has a sheriff teaming up with an oceanographer and a local fisherman to hunt down a man-eating great white shark that has been terrorizing the shores of the beach town of Amity Island. In case you didn't know this, it was Jaws that catapulted Spielberg to the very forefront of Hollywood, making him a household name. Let's be honest here, despite just being a shark movie, Jaws is so much more than that. Amidst a horde of things that the film will forever be known for, we have to give credit to composer John Williams for coming up with such a brilliant, minimalist background score that's probably the best monster theme ever written. It was the effectively ominous two-note score that marked the very presence of the predator, without Spielberg having to show the monster every single time. And come to think of it, it does amaze us now when we realize how little the creature was actually shown in the flick. Spielberg's cleverly made shark eye view camera work has the movie in the director's favor from the very beginning till the end, having the viewers wholly glued to their seats throughout the runtime of 124 minutes. While it's true that the shark does look fake at times, it doesn't really matter because the story itself is so good. You have such a fantastic cast, superb acting, and dare we disregard Spielberg's excellent direction that makes Jaws one of the greatest movies ever made, in spite of its dated technology. Godzilla vs. Hedora, 1971. This cult classic creature feature, which serves as the 11th film in the Godzilla franchise, is directed and co-written by the late Japanese filmmaker Yoshimitsu Banno, starring actors and stuntmen Haruo Nakajima and Kenpachiro Satsuma as the titular monsters, Godzilla and Hedora. The Japanese kaiju film has a microscopic alien species arriving on Earth by comet. It starts feeding on the pollution and eventually becomes the ever-evolving, toxic, acid-secreting Hedora. While at first, Hedora is seen terrorizing the sea, the monster in due course moves on to the land to consume more sources of pollution, with the malevolent Hedora ultimately catching the attention of Godzilla, the defender of Earth. Sensing the peril, engages in a fierce battle that will decide the fate of the world with Hedora. So the thing with Godzilla movies is that you either like them or you don't. So mark our words when we tell you that this film here is highly capable of scaring the bejesus out of you, given its disturbing mix of imagery, the numerous human casualties, and the high points of the flick. The eponymous monsters. Teruyoshi Nakano, who provided special effects for the film, deserves a rather special mention here for the monster battles. They look every bit real. Earlier, when we said the monster movie has several human casualties on display, we weren't aggrandizing. There are hordes of unsettling sequences with dying babies, and Hedora's victims being reduced to slimy skeletons at the end of the day. The movie features quite a formidable opponent in Hedora. It is hands down the most foul-looking multi-form mutant beast Godzilla has ever encountered. And we would be remiss not to mention the creature's nerve-wracking shriek. Prophecy, 1979. Directed by the late veteran John Frankenheimer and written by David Seltzer, Prophecy follows Dr. Robert Verne taking up a job in the Environmental Protection Agency to write a report about an ongoing clash between a paper mill and a Native American tribe in Maine. The doctor's wife also decides to tag along with him on the trip, and while probing deeper, they discover the main problem, mercury poisoning from the mill. But what they're utterly oblivious to is that the paper mill's toxic waste has polluted the water and caused the strangest of mutations to a local bear, amongst others, making it a monstrous, horribly mutated, brutal beast running amok and spreading terror and death on its way. Well, hats off to Frankenheimer for not only depicting Prophecy as a monster movie, but also giving it a rather dynamic storyline. When we say dynamic, we're particularly stressing on the director deftly including the adverse effects of a polluted environment in his film, and delivering an environmental message in the process. Anyway, speaking of the movie's focal point, it's undoubtedly the 15-foot grotesque grotesque-looking grizzly, who was essayed by the 7 foot 2 inches tall actor stuntman Kevin Peter Hall. In case you were wondering, Kevin is the same guy who portrayed the titular creature in Predator, and he, as the grizzly monster in Prophecy, is absolutely terrifying. The flick's tone has deliberately been kept serious, and the movie is quite graphic in terms of its gore. There's a whole lot of running and screaming. We have a family getting brutally slaughtered while camping, a man in an upturned vehicle getting his head ripped off, and there's also an epic moonlit chasing scene through a fog-laden lake. If you're into monster movies and haven't watched this one yet, you know what you need to do this instant. Please watch Prophecy with the lights off for a better impact. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, 1974. Jun Fukuda's Japanese action-adventure kaiju film, which is backed by a screenplay by Fukuda and Hiroyasu Yamamura, marks the first appearances of the fictional monsters Mechagodzilla and King Caesar in the franchise. As the 14th film in the Godzilla franchise, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla has a robotic Godzilla, which, no points for guessing is Mechagodzilla, sent by an army of extraterrestrial apes who intend to take over the world, but this mechanical titan of terror has to battle the real Godzilla, who's aided by Okinawa's guardian monster King Caesar to fulfill its mission. The legendary special effects director Teruyoshi Nakano deserves yet another mention for his spectacular work in the movie. The rampage scenes of Mechagodzilla were carried out with the utmost precision. Mechagodzilla's design is truly iconic, making it look exceedingly threatening. This menacing metal monstrosity is shown to be a badass here, having the best arsenal of weapons, one of which happens to be finger missiles. Also, Mechagodzilla's fight with Anguirus, where the former is literally seen tearing apart the latter's jaws, isn't for the faint-hearted. Truth be told, the battle sequences featured in the film are categorically the high points of the whole movie. They're epic, and to see the legendary King Caesar join forces with Godzilla to battle Godzilla's tormenting metallic twin is an oddly satisfying experience. The Food of the Gods, 1976. Directed, written, and produced by the late B-movie legend Burt I. Gordon. The Food of the Gods, which was loosely based on a part of Herbert George Wells' 1904 sci-fi novel titled The Food of the Gods and How It Came to Earth, has professional football player Morgan on a hunting trip with his friends on a remote island somewhere in British Columbia. However, the group is attacked by giant wasps, which leads to the death of one of Morgan's friends. When Morgan tries to investigate the matter, he discovers that the whole island is infested with animals that have somehow grown to gigantic sizes. However, the most dangerous amongst these giant critters are gargantuan rats that will stop at nothing until they're done wreaking havoc and killing their prey, which in this case are the humans. The Food of the Gods undoubtedly has the most fearsome creatures that have appeared in any other Gordon movie. Of course, this can be debatable, but one look at the size of the intimidating giant rats and you may actually agree with us. What you're looking at happens to be a wild and highly bizarre tale. You have the colossal killer beasts, starting from rats, chickens, flies, wasps, and worms, literally threatening the humans, and believe us when we tell you they're nasty. The whole movie is an action-packed ride till the climax, with gratuitous levels of gore and bloodshed. The rats are the high points of this feature, and they still look scary even to this day. Well, when you have Rick Baker doing creature design of the rats, you know for a fact that they just cannot be taken lightly. Space Amoeba, 1970. Written by A. Ogawa and directed by Ishiro Honda, this Japanese kaiju film, which was both distributed and produced by Toho Studios, has an amorphous parasitic extraterrestrial hijacking a space probe that was sent to Jupiter on a mission to study the planet. The probe makes its way back to Earth and crash lands on an atoll in the South Pacific. The amoeba-like extraterrestrial leaves the probe and begins to inhabit the bodies of the native life forms, thereby mutating them and creating gigantic monsters out of them. No points for guessing that the alien's main purpose is to conquer the entire planet. For those of you wondering what it is that makes this kaiju film so great, it's indisputably the giant squid, who's known as Gezora in the movie, followed by the enormous, monstrous stone crab Ganymedes, and the titanic tortoise Camebus. But then, we all know that's the beauty of Honda. He has always been known for having made some of the best giant monster flicks. Full credits to Ogawa for coming up with such a compelling script that not only has the perfect pace and makes excellent use of an exotic tropical setting, but also maintains a serious tone all throughout, while staging what is fitting to address as one of the most intense beast bashes in the climax. Sadamasa Arikawa, who acted as the director of special effects for the film, did an impressive job, as well as making Space Amoeba a nifty creature feature. Terror of Mechagodzilla, 1975. What you're looking at happens to be Ishiro Honda's final movie as a director, boasting special effects by Teruyoshi Nakano and an intriguing screenplay by Yukiko Takayama. This kaiju film serves as a direct sequel to Jun Fukuda's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Speaking of the storyline, the events of Terror of Mechagodzilla occur right after what happened in the previous movie. Remember how in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla teamed up with King Caesar to take down Mechagodzilla? Well, in this particular film, Godzilla has to take down not one, but two menacing monstrosities, all by itself. First things first, what is there not to love about this movie? The flick has all the elements that will get every fan of the Godzilla movie franchise super excited. Add this to Akira Ifukube composing what is categorically one of his best musical scores, and thereby making this film just as good as its predecessor. There's an abundance of city destruction taking place, and by this, we'd like to stress on the same row of buildings getting blown up at least 4 times in a row. The movie's central points are the monsters Mechagodzilla and the equally formidable aquatic dinosaur, Titanosaurus. Mechagodzilla appears way scarier than before. The metallic twin of Godzilla has revolving missiles added to its arsenal, and is also seen functioning even without its head. As for Titanosaurus, it serves as a memorable new monster. The noise made by Titanosaurus in the movie can still send chills down the spine. Island of the Fishmen, 1979. Sergio Martino's Italian action horror movie, which is set in the year 1891, has a prison ship sinking, after which a military doctor and a handful of convicts wash ashore on a mysterious, uncharted Caribbean island, with some of the convicts receiving brutal deaths at the hands of the titular Fishmen. The doctor, along with the remaining survivors, ventured deeper into the seemingly deserted island, only to cross paths with a mad scientist who has his own sinister agenda of creating half-human monsters to plunder the lost city of Atlantis of its treasures. You know, there are times when a movie is so ludicrous that you actually end up loving it? Well, that is precisely the case with Island of the Fishmen, which, if we're being honest, is an arresting mess. This Italian gem here has everything you can possibly think of. There are these mutant fish-like creatures, a voodoo subplot, the lost city of Atlantis, treasure hunting, volcanic eruptions, and a seemingly abandoned island filled with death traps and a sadistic scientist. Well, when you have all these in a single movie, you're bound to be entertained. It's also fitting to state that this film here, in terms of the storyline, is loosely based on H.G. Wells' sci-fi novel titled The Island of Dr. Moreau. Next, if you take a look at the Fishmen in the movie, you're bound to find similarities with the creature from Jack Arnold's Creature from the Black Lagoon. But having said that, the Fishmen featured in the flick are quite distinctive, given their big fish eyes and facial coloring. As genetically created amphibian monsters, the hideous-looking Fishmen are seen residing in the swamps of the island. And trust us when we say this, you just would not want to cross paths with them. Octaman, 1971. Harry Essex's Mexican-American monster movie revolves around an expedition team that becomes the central target of a murderous humanoid octopus, or in other words, the eponymous Octaman. Essex had earlier written the screenplay for Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it's only fitting to state that he really did want a 70's version of Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that's how Octaman came into the whole picture. Like it or not, but both movies do bear a number of similarities with each other. Also, would you believe us if we told you that this lost horror gem here happens to be the very first film for special makeup effects legend Rick Baker, and no points for guessing that the star of the movie happens to be the almighty Octaman. Now, the Octaman happens to be a fearsome monster, or as he's described in the movie, the hideous fruit of atomic radiation. He certainly does not like people messing around with him, and he makes it quite clear with his daunting red eyes and those strangely powerful tentacles. What makes the creature even more scary is that he can crawl even on the land, and that takes the gore quotient in the movie's notches higher. Frogs, 1972. George McCowan's eco-horror flick begins with wildlife photographer Pickett Smith taking photos of the local flora and fauna while canoeing through a swamp that surrounds the island mansion of the highly wealthy and influential Crockett family. After a chance encounter with the Crockett siblings leads to Smith's canoe getting tipped over, the siblings invite Smith to their mansion, while also offering Smith to be part of the 4th of July and birthday celebrations of their grumpy, wheelchair-bound, nature-hating grandfather, Jason Crockett. Of course, it doesn't take Smith much time to realize that the entire island estate is crawling with ravenous amphibians, birds, insects, reptiles, and all kinds of creepy crawlies, who are simply waiting to exact their revenge on the Crockett family. First things first, Frogs is inevitably not for the squeamish, with Les Baxter's complimenting work on the eerie background score and the sheer variety of all kinds of creepy crawlies that you can possibly imagine featured in the movie. One is bound to feel queasy at some point. The film has plenty of gruesome animal-inflicted death sequences, each effectively executed and successfully leaving an impact. McCowan's deliberate attempts to give Frogs an atmospheric feeling of doom are highly commendable. And there comes a time when you almost feel like you're right there amidst the swampy mess and action. The frogs look even more ominous when McCowan zooms in on them and emphasizes on their croaking. Snow Beast, 1977. Herb Wallerstein's made-for-television horror movie, which is backed by a teleplay by Joseph Stefano, has former Olympic skiing champion Gar Seberg returning to his hometown, a ski resort nestled in the Colorado Rockies, along with his wife Ellen. With the ski resort holding its 50th annual winter carnival at the same time, Gar and Ellen get caught up in the middle of a rampage of a bloodthirsty Bigfoot-like creature terrorizing the resort. The best part about Snow Beast is the white, hairy, massive, monstrous beast on display. Believe us when we tell you that the monster's ungodly roar throughout the film can still send shivers down the spine. A film that does not really show the creature in its entirety, but still manages to create an impact on the audience, cannot be treated lightly. Snow Beast deserves special mention for its swooping Steadicam work, especially around the slopes, adding further to the tense, atmospheric setting. Robert Prince's musical score also works in favor of the film, making it genuinely creepy right from the beginning. Last but not least, those who have seen Snow Beast often compare the flick with Spielberg's Jaws because of the same premise about a monster on the loose, and a town that does not want to admit it, afraid of losing their record turnout. What do you think? Do you feel the same? If you do, please share with us your thoughts in the comments below. Empire of Ants, 1977. Based loosely on H.G. Wells' 1905 short story, also titled Empire of the Ants, Bert I. Gordon's 1977 sci-fi horror film has a shady real estate developer bringing a group of prospective clients to a beachfront property, unaware that the island is home to a colony of giant mutated ants. What follows next is the survival of the fittest and the fastest. Earlier, when we said giant ants, we basically were referring to bugs mutating into unearthly beings after getting contaminated with radioactive waste. These ants are a lethal troop of hairy, oversized creatures who will stop at nothing unless they're done barbarically feeding on human blood. Empire of the Ants is packed with action and extremely fast-paced, which makes it a definite crowd pleaser at the end of the day. The Legend of Boggy Creek, 1972. Charles B. Pierce's docudrama horror movie is basically about the folk monster, a giant three-toed Sasquatch-type creature that has been reportedly sighted in and around Folk, Arkansas, terrorizing the small town since the 1940s. Many of the actual folks who claim to have seen the creature and experienced its tormenting existence play themselves in the movie version, making The Legend of Boggy Creek a pretty interesting, creepy documentary-style drama. It is the old, moody, atmospheric setting of the movie, and by that we mean the remote, woodsy, lakeside spookiness, which works wonders. The monster, as one recalls it, is this huge, bloodthirsty Bigfoot-like creature with reddish-brown hair, and possessing what is fittingly called the foulest odor, strong enough to incapacitate someone. It wouldn't be wrong on our part to address this movie here as a genre of its own, one that is loaded with a good amount of suspense and scares. Besides the monster featured, what solitarily raises the hair on the back of one's neck is the fact that it is based on a supposed true story, which means it cannot be disregarded easily. Planet of the Dinosaurs, 1977. Directed by James K. Shea, and written by Jim Opperl and Ralph Lucas. The narrative has Captain Lee and his crew crash landing on a planet that looks similar to Earth, but with no trace of civilization. It eventually dawns on the stranded survivors that the primitive planet they have landed on is millions of years behind in a time when they find it infested with prehistoric dinosaurs, who are more than ready to sink their teeth into them. The dinosaurs are, without a doubt, the high points of the whole movie. They are classic stop-motion monsters, and that makes them, or in other words, the T-Rex, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus, Polacanthus, and dare we disregard the giant spider, quite dreadful. The movie also features some very impressive special effects, and today Planet of Dinosaurs serves as a guilty pleasure, if not anything else. Alien, 1979. With Alien, H.R. Giger and Sir Ridley Scott created what is conclusively considered cinema's best monster to date. Based on a story by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, the narrative has the crew of a commercial towing spacecraft intercepting a distress signal from a nearby moon and setting out to investigate it per the company protocol. But the crew soon finds themselves up against a highly deadly, aggressive, and territorial extraterrestrial beast who, unbeknownst to the crew, manages to invade their ship. Boasting a tagline that says, "In space, no one can hear you scream," Alien is an ideal blend of science fiction, horror, and creature feature, all rolled up into one absolutely terrifying nightmare. Of course, there's no denying that the USP of the movie categorically happens to be the titular character, who, despite having a screen time of only 4 minutes in the entire film, is, believe us when we tell you, pure nightmare fuel. The life cycle of the xenomorph adds to the unsettling atmosphere, as it is seen developing from an egg to a facehugger, then a chestburster, and finally its adult form, one that is literally capable of scaring the living daylights out of you. So we're basically looking at someone whose signature method of killing its prey is by using its inner jaws to pierce right through the victim's skull, or in simple words, a fatal head bite. Also, the fact that Giger insisted on the creature not having eyes gives the xenomorph a rather disturbing appearance of a hostile, impassive, feral beast. Irrefutably a timeless sci-fi horror masterpiece, Alien continues to gloat over its iconic chestburster scene to this very day. Marvelous verdict. Well, that's all for today, and with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. So which of these mind-wrenching 70s creature features that we mentioned left a lasting impression on you? Also, did your favorite monster movie make it to our list? We would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we sincerely hope that you've got your fill of horror for today. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please leave a thumbs up, and stay tuned to our channel, as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye, and thanks for watching. Have a nice one!